Hi, my name is Dr. Courtney Heaton with Mississippi State University Extension Equine. Over the next couple weeks, our videos are going to focus on nutrition, broken down into 3 different sections talking about forage, grain, and how to read a feed tag. This week we're going to talk about grains or concentrates and how they can play an important role in some equine diets. Did you know not every horse needs to be on grain? Like we discussed last week, forage should be the foundation of every equine diet. But some horses have higher metabolisms or need extra calories due to lactation, growth, or exercise. These horses might benefit from adding grain or concentrates into the diet. So this is an example of a complete feed. This is a sample of Trina Safe Choice Senior. So you'll see that it's in a pelleted form. So this is a completely homogenized pellet where they pulverize and grind the feed into a powder and form it into these pellets. So it can be difficult for horses that are picky eaters to kind of sift through this. It also has, if you feel it, you can actually feel, a little bit of moisture to it. And I mentioned earlier that this is considered a complete feed. So complete feeds are designed for horses that might not be able to get all their optimum nutrition from a forage source. So this could be old horses, those that are missing teeth or have dental problems, or just hard keepers. So this can actually be fed as the entire ration. Now, there are some downsides to that. These horses might be kind of craving those long stem forages that they're accustomed to, but rest assured this will meet those nutritional requirements for them. So that's another consideration and another option for horses that are having those issues. So this is a sample of Purina Strategy GX, and you can see this is also a pelleted feed. Now this is different than the senior because this is not a complete feed. This is considered a commercial mix. Commercial mixes are very popular because of the consistency of the ingredients. And again, being in this pelleted formation, horses have trouble kind of picking out parts that they might not favor as much. So our commercial mixes might be kind of all-encompassing, all stages of nutrition, or you might see a feed that's advertised as mare and foal, performance horse, those kind of feeds. So they're meant to be fed along with hay in the diet, hay or pasture. This is a sample of Purina Omeline 100 active pleasure horse feed, and you'll see this looks a lot different than the other feeds I've shown you today. So this is actually considered a textured feed. So you can see there's some pellets in there, a little bit of chips of corn, and also you've got some oats. So some horses that are picky eaters will like the added, little bit added molasses or sugar to this feed and a little bit of variety that it provides, but you can have some horses totally pick out the parts that they like and don't like. But it is a highly palatable feed. Some people don't like textured feeds because they're worried about the sugar and non-structural carbohydrate content of it. But fortunately, with a lot of research out there today, these feeds can also be formulated to be more controlled in their starches and sugars. So it's important just to read the feed tag and know what's in that feed, but you shouldn't be scared of feeding a textured feed just because of that. This is a sample of Nutrina Empower Balance. So you'll notice that this is also in a pelleted form, but this is a lot different than the other feeds I've talked about today. This is considered a ration balancer. So ration balancers freak a lot of people out when they look at the feed tag because you'll see a very high protein content, often in the 20 to 30%. But this feed is designed to have a very low feed rate. So for example, my 2 1,100-pound horses, they just get a pound of this a day. Ration balancers are great for horses that are easy keepers, that might have some kind of holes in their nutrition depending on their forage quality. So with a low feeding rate, we're not going to have the higher amount of calories that would come with another grain, but we can be assured that our horse is getting appropriate nutrition for their requirements. Although this sample comes in a pelleted form, it's not a grain. This this is pelleted alfalfa, specifically the Stanley Alfalfa Pellet. So I wanted to show this to you just as another option of what pelleting can be used for, and a different forage option as well. So a lot of people like the pelleted alfalfa because it's really easy to feed. You can just scoop it and give it to your horses and be a little more accurate with the weighing. But it's important to note that although this can replace the forage in your horse's diet, they still might have kind of a need for that long stem forage. So ideally our horses should be eating small meals throughout the day, grazing for a long period of the day, or munching on hay. If you need to expand that, you could use, for example, a slow hay net to help extend your horse's feeding. So you can feed this as their forage portion of their diet, but they might be left kind of idle throughout the day, which isn't very good for their gastrointestinal system and can lead to some stable vices. So really good supplement, but also kind of consider what your horse might need also in terms of a long stem forage. The foundation of any equine diet should be forage in the form of hay or pasture, for example. But some horses might need extra calories, which we can meet in our concentrated grains. It's very important, though, to remember a couple feeding guidelines. So for example, it's important to feed by weight and not by volume. So a lot of our standard horse feed scoops are going to be 3 quarts. And you can see on the inside, 1 quart, 2 quart, and then flush with the top would be 3 quarts. But each feed might weigh different depending on their density. So you can use some simple tools at home to weigh your feeds and kind of know what you're feeding. And you might say, well, Courtney, why is this important? Well, if your horse has a gastrointestinal disturbance or colic, for example, you should be able to tell your vet, my horse is eating 3 pounds of this feed 2 times a day. That can help them out. It also can help you determine your horse's nutritional requirements and if they're being met, which we can talk about in a later section. This is just a standard luggage scale you can get at Walmart or any other store like that. We've actually weighed out all those different feed samples we talked about today, and we'll kind of share that with you. So again, this is just 1 scoop or 3 quarts, and this is just a demonstration that not every 3 quarts weighs the same. So this bag of the Stanley alfalfa pellets is 3.96 pounds for 3 quarts. Three quarts or 1 scoop of the Purina Omeline 100 is 2.98 pounds. Three quarts of the Trina ration balancer Empower Balance is 3.96 pounds. The Purina Strategy GX is also 3.96 pounds. And the Nutrina Safe Choice Senior is 3.25 pounds. So again, this is just demonstrating differences with each feed depending on, your scoop. So again, most scoops are 3 quarts, but if you know how much per scoop you're feeding, that can be really helpful to your veterinarian and also for your personal records, and also so you know exactly how much goes in your horse's feed. Now, if you're sitting there and you're like, well, Courtney, I use a coffee can. How am I supposed to equate that to a scoop? What you can do is get a bucket and your handy luggage, or you can even use a fish scale, and you can zero out your scale to account for the bucket weight. And if you dump your coffee can of feed in there, you can see how much that coffee can weighs. Okay.
Remember, it is important to always feed concentrates based on weight, not by volume. Overfeeding grain can lead to excess weight gain and health problems such as colic and laminitis. The guidelines on the back of your feed bag for your horse's weight and lifestyle, such as growing and exercise, can help you prevent these problems. You can always talk to an extension specialist, equine nutritionist, or veterinarian if you have any feeding questions. Did you know you can conduct analysis on grain too? There are many places you can send your samples for testing, but we do have a facility right here in Starkville, Mississippi. For more information on sending a sample to the HW Essig Nutrition Lab, contact our laboratory coordinator, Kathy Altman, at cma3@msstate.edu. Join us next week as we continue our nutrition talk about how to read a feed tag.